Peace, HHDG. We are on another episode of HHDG Media, the podcast. And big thank you always to the people that are tuning and listening, sharing, commenting, liking, and also speaking with us and, giving their gratitude for the work that we put in. That always are watching through our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook group, HHDG, which is Hip Hop Discussion Group. As you can see, as always, our bottom banner has our website, hhdgmedia.com, where you can go check out latest music, upcoming events, our previous written interviews, and also our merchandise. This is always made possible continuously through our company, HHDG Media Inc., which consists of our 5 owners, Rock Vader KB, T. Smith, myself, Wiki, Demare, and also Skelly Top. For tonight, we have a multi-talented, experienced guest in more than one avenue who he's even had a title on his debut album called Know Your Worth. And that's a great example of what he's accomplished, the groundwork that he's paved in his life, his music, the culture. And I got to say, this is a person that you can definitely gain a lot of wisdom from and definitely learn and appreciate how much work he's actually put in that you really wouldn't know if you discovered his company and his blog, Out the Box Media. And even if you listen to his music gives a great insight into him, but you wouldn't know the full person until you actually checked everything that he's accomplished, continues to make new milestones with. And just recently, he dropped a very, very concise, introspective EP, A State of Going Through, on May 23rd of this year, which was actually almost, I believe it's about 3 days off from the anniversary of previous project. That previous project was The Next Best Step. And y'all should just also check out the bonus tracks that he had on the CD as well. We'll talk about that as well. But again, like I said, multi-talented, because we're not just talking with the music. We're talking about journalism. We're talking about him teaching himself production. We could go on, and there's a lot more in there. He's also an author. And with that being said right there, he possessed even more jewels to bless the world with. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute so we can definitely bless and introduce our guest, the Brooklyn native, Cril. Peace.
Peace, brother. Peace. Thank you so much for that intro, man. I'm so used to giving people intros with the number of interviews I've done. To actually get it from you is so honorable, man. It feels so good, man. It's surreal.
I appreciate that. I was going to say, it's got to feel different, when you're on the other side of getting the introduction.
Word, that's what's up, man. I'm so grateful, brother. I'm so grateful. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Definitely. Now,
you guys can hear me well out there, right? Okay.
Yep. Definitely.
Cool.
Now, before we go right into the music, just give us a quick glimpse of your childhood and what made you want to go into writing.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting because my God-given gift is art. So I grew up drawing from a young age. I really didn't dabble into music until I got to be closer to a teenager, but I was always drawing at 7 years old, and I was always drawn to realistic artwork. You know what I mean? Like I would look at a newspaper and I would actually draw, whether it be political figures or like human being, like, you know, real human beings. I wasn't into like the cartoon drawing. I was like really drawn to drawing like real people, you know. Um, but as far as like, you know, starting to rap, you know, I grew up in Brooklyn, but originally I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I went back to live in Trinidad, in the island of Trinidad, with my grandmother, my family and stuff.
Okay.
So I grew up in the Caribbean, and then I came back here when I was 9. And then when I came back to Brooklyn, everything started opening up in terms of my connection to hip hop music and just the love for it. And I remember writing a rhyme with one of my homies that I grew up with. We we were into, like, you know, Crisscross back in the days, right? Like Crisscross was like my first hip hop group that I actually bought a cassette from. I remember I was on Pitkin Ave in Brownsville, and it was like this store that was selling like cassettes and stuff. And I had told my pops at the time, I was like, I want to go get a cassette. And I remember Crisscross, right? This is back in the days when we was Hawk and I and Cross Colors and stuff. So I grew up in that 90s era, really inspired by, you know, hip hop, and really just wanting to start doing it. You know, it just came natural. I don't even know how to explain it. It was the culture I was living in, but I just decided to start writing. Over the years, you know, doing it more, going through junior high school, going really in high school is when I really started like actually writing a lot, and then you know, freestyling and, you know, doing, you know, ciphers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hip hop's been in me since, I want to say, since I moved back to New York when I was like maybe like my preteens, like 12, 13, getting older. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned Trinidad. So if anyone is familiar with Out the Box Media and you go check out his blog, he's very diverse with his music. It's not just hip hop. He's got some R&B in there. I've checked the soul as well. So when you were in Trinidad, what type of music were you hearing there?
You know, so interesting. Like, I didn't hear a lot of hip hop.
Mhm.
I like, my mom had like Whitney Houston albums, you know, and Michael Jackson, of course. My uncle had a lot of reggae albums, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Um, it was a variety of music, but hip hop definitely wasn't really there. I had started getting glimpses of hip hop, like I would be in certain areas of Trinidad and I might hear like a Slick Rick record, and I remember my earliest experience of hearing hip hop might have been like Guru. Like I remember hearing Guru from Gangstar. That voice was just very prominent, you know. But I didn't really grow up in Trinidad listening to a lot of hip hop. But like you say, I was very diverse in terms of pretty much black music, right? Like soul music, reggae music, of course, soca music, calypso music. You know, that's the music that I grew up on. But when I came back to New York, you know, I'm in the culture, right? Like it's you know, I remember, yeah, like it was just hitting. I remember Onyx, Back the F Up. Like that was like when I heard that record, like it was crazy, but I was like drawn to like the music and stuff. I remember me and my boy, like we wanted to shave our heads bald, you know what I mean? Back then when Onyx was out.
That was powerful influence back then, yeah.
Word, like, and we couldn't play that record in the house. I think I remember my boy playing the record, and then he had to cut that thing off because it was, you know, it was a lot of profanity, you know. So you know, like, but really like my hip hop influences came here, you know, and as I continue to get older, it just became more stronger. I started dabbling into just learning, educating myself, being more informed. It just continued. My knowledge started to grow, and it just to this day is still growing. You know what I mean?
Student,
Yeah.
We're always a student.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that in the household you had to cut it off, because I can relate to that.
Right. We
Because
couldn't play that.
most of your parents is like, no. What? First of all, they're gonna be like, what are you listening to? And then they're gonna start investigating everything that you're listening to, and we're like, you can't have that in here. And
Word.
the funny thing is, a lot of music before our time was vulgar in a certain subtle way, where it wasn't direct the way as expressive hip hop music is, with using those type of profanity. And
Right.
so it was a little different for the older people's ears to hear it like that in the music.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Because I remember Enter the Stage Black Moon cassette I had,
Right.
and I left it sitting on the kitchen table, and my mom read the track list. she she
Wasn't
she had
feeling it.
she had that quick talk with me. she was like
Exactly.
she was like, look, I don't mind what you listening to, but that's not how I raised you. So don't try and act like something that you're not, and don't disrespect women, because that's not how I raised
That's the love of a mother, and the care and the guidance, man. It's real. Yeah.
you. Yep. So high school is when you started writing and rhyming. Um,
Yes.
what directly? What was the main thing at that point that said, this is what I want to go in? Because you got the hip hop all around you. What influenced you, or what artist, or maybe a song influenced you to that point where you're ready to start writing?
Yeah, I love that question. It's so funny. I don't think I've ever said this in an interview yet, but those people that know me know this, like people that grew up with me. Um, when I was younger, I think really from the beginning of high school, people used to say I look like Nas a lot. I mean, like a whole lot. I mean, it got to the point where, and this is just true story. I went, DJ Ralph McDaniels, he had a store in like Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And I remember I went down there with one of my boys or whatever, and my boy was joking. He was like, "Yo, they say he looked like Nas and stuff like that."
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I had a lot of experiences where people would be like, "Yo, you Nas' younger brother," or they would really say I look like him, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that Nas had an influence on me. Maybe it had part to do with people would always say I look like him, but I also really resonated with his style. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like back then, you know, I couldn't afford to get the actual official cassettes. So I bought a lot of the bootleg cassettes on the streets on Fulton Street in Brooklyn. So I remember I copped
I understand.
it was written and Reasonable Doubt. I think I bought them the same day. And that was like the beginning of me really tapping into like just this real the artistic side of hip hop. So I think I would say people like Nas, definitely Jay-Z, definitely, man, so many influences, man. But Nas was definitely at the forefront. Um Biggie, you know what I'm saying? I grew up, in Crown Heights, really at the border between Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy. So, you know, like knowing that Biggie was from like blocks away from where I grew up, that resonated in a certain way, you
Yeah.
know. And then when he passed away, just the energy of Brooklyn at that time, it was very like it was a tough time, but yeah, it's so funny. Like, oh, Wu-Tang, I forgot. Wu-Tang, like Wu-Tang was a huge influence. In fact, let me rewind back because junior high school, this is before Nas. I think it was Wu-Tang, definitely Wu-Tang. The Enter the 36 Chambers. That was huge. That had a big influence on me. Um, if you think about the junior high school I went to, we used to act like we were Wu-Tang. Like, like me and my friends, we all of us had like a Wu-Tang member name and stuff,
Got you. Okay.
Like it's so crazy when you think about it. Like, these brothers was from the same New York City as us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were looking up to them because they were kind of like bigger brothers to us. Everything in terms of style, the Timberlands, all the way they dressed, the way they when I look at my peers, they were like younger versions of Wu-Tang in terms of how they dressed, the way they talk. It's just something growing up in New York. You can see the influence, by some of these artists that grew up in the same city as us. So Wu-Tang was a big influence as well.
That's dope. That's definitely dope. Yeah. And that's my home borough, Staten Island.
That's what's up. Shaolin.
Yeah, so I get to witness, a little bit of that early grind with the Protect Your Neck when they were rolling that out and promoting and everything. Street Team on their own and everything. So, and that is similar to your grind because I don't know if you had a set plan, and we'll talk about that later on, but how they rolled everything out and how they went to all the places and pretty much did like it did down south, selling out the vehicle and everything, and then just playing the music is similar to how I see you built up your own company and you've used your education and your experience in broadcasting and journalism to expand with your music.
Word. So yeah, I mean, it's been a journey, right? Like, I started Out the Box Media, and shout out to my brother A Level, who's been with me from the jump. Shout out to my brother Mark too, who we usually do like shows together. A Level and Mark, those are my brothers that we do Out the Box talk shows with. But yeah, started Out the Box Media. It came out of I was working at a company where I was actually doing a lot of cool stuff to kind of help promote like underground hip hop and stuff. And after leaving that company, I felt like there was this void. Like, I did all of this cool stuff to help, promote underground hip hop, independent hip hop. And I was like, well, like my apprenticeship or my time there, it was a short time. I moved on, right? And I just was like, yo, what else am I gonna do? Like, I'm able to do such cool stuff to help promote independent artists that I gotta keep this thing going. And that's when I started the YouTube channel. This was back in like 2008, right? This was when a lot of people didn't really have YouTube channels to what we see now,
Right.
But it was just out of necessity for me to like, okay, I gotta keep this going. Like, there was something about being able to promote and share dope, creative, independent, thought-provoking, just dope hip-hop that always felt like a need for me to do. Like, that was a calling for me. And that's how I created Out the Box. And I went on to do a lot of different like interviews with a number of different artists. You probably checked out some of the stuff, but that was my journey on the media side of things. And for a long time, I wasn't doing music. I was just focused on that. And then when the pandemic hit, let me say this. I did some music when I was in college because I went to Hofstra University, and I was a part of a hip hop organization there. I was also the producer of a college radio station there. We won some awards under my leadership and stuff. So I was always, you know, on the media side, even in college. And I was doing music in college. But when I left college, and I started working and I, started out the box, I just focused on that really, for a long time. That was what it was. And I always said I wanted to get back to music again.
Mhm.
But I think the thing that was always getting in my way was having to deal with the politics of working with producers. Not that I had any issues with any producers, but I just felt like it was just this extra layer of um extra things that I needed to, extra stuff to do. Like I gotta reach out to certain
Mhm.
producers. Maybe they're gonna probably charge me a certain amount of money. And even if they charge me, I might have to deal with certain, just politics I didn't want to have to deal with. And when the pandemic hit, I was just like, yo, I just saw like so much people being inspired to do stuff, and I saw a lot of the artists I was interviewing on Out the Box, they were doing their own music, and I was like, damn, if I just get this thing a
Yep.
shot, maybe just try to figure this out, just step by step, maybe I could do this, and it really was that. I just said, all right, you know, I came into a little bit of money, not a lot of money, we was getting checks and stuff. So during the pandemic, so I had a little money, and I said, you know what, let me invest in FL Studio because it's not that expensive, and let me see if I could get it. At first, I was trying to make the beats. Am I moving too fast, or am I
No,
just
no,
right
you're
on?
good. You're
All right,
good.
because I feel like I jumped straight to the beats, but I wanted to give you a little history, right, of how I got there. But I said, all right, first I was trying to make the beats just with the computer. And I was like, I wasn't feeling that. I was like, it's not working for me. So I said, let me get me a MIDI keyboard. And
Mhm.
I plugged in the keyboard, and I just started the groove of hitting the keys, right? And chopping samples that way just felt way better. Just the feel of using your hands as opposed to like, pressing
Clicking and
buttons on a
everything. Yeah.
keyboard.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that is really the beginning of me learning to make beats. And it wasn't easy. It took a little while to like, I had to watch a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube, and I would get frustrated at times. I'd be like, and then I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I started creating some sounds that I was liking,
Yeah.
and I just was like, you know what, I like that. Let me stop overthinking. Let me just put it out, and that really helped me because if I didn't stop and just put out what I felt at least a bit comfortable with, I'd probably still be making some of those beats and still nothing would be out. So I had to find that balance to say, okay, boom, even though I want to do more with these beats, let me just get this out because I think it's good where it is. And
Right.
then as you can see, when I released my first album, Growth and Balance, if you look at the difference in the beats, there's a bit of a difference because I honed in and I learned a
Your
little bit
sonics are
more.
different. Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah, but that's the journey with the music, man. Once I learned how to make beats myself, it was over.
That was it.
I
Yeah.
was back to rhyming. Like it was like, oh wow, I could do this. Cause I always rhymed. I rhymed way before I started doing journalism. That
Yeah.
was that was early, high school. All my friends know that I rapped back then. Yeah.
And I noticed a lot certain talents like you teaching yourself production came out of a bit of a necessity. And
It
I
did.
hear that. I hear that often. And usually when an artist does that, whatever it is that they do out of necessity, it might not be production. It could be filmography. It might be doing graphic design. They end up finding a talent that they didn't know that they really had.
Word.
It's amazing. So you got to, being that we're talking about production, I'm not sure if you did the production, but tell us about critical thinking, the college years.
So that's thanks for even finding out about that project. So that is so crazy. Like I need to put that up somewhere. That project I did in college, I was part of a hip hop organization called the Sixth Element. back at Hofstra University. And believe it or not, there's video on YouTube. I'll probably send it to you. Where I actually was part of a contest. It was sort of like a hip hop American Idol back then, and I actually won. And I went up against one of the brothers that was part of the same organization as me. He was really talented. His name was J Money. And I actually found the video on YouTube the other day. Somebody posted it up. This is back.
I gotta see that.
This is back in like 2003, bro. Like, so where am I going with that? What was your question again? I'm sorry, I lost.
I was talking about the critical thinking, the college years.
Right. So there we had in the organization I was part of, Sixth Element. We had a number of us. We like a posse. We all rap. A lot of us rap. Not everybody, but a lot of us rap. So we would be working on our own individual projects, and then we would be working on a project together as a whole posse. And nice. I started working. There was this brother named C Money that I went to school with. He made a couple beats for me. Shout out to this brother named Juan, who was kind of like an engineer. So it was a few people I met in college that was making beats, and then there's a few beats on there that are just like I remember the song "My Life" by Pharaoh Monch. My life is all I have. Remember the beat to that? And I think Styles had a verse on there, or maybe Styles had. I think it was either a verse on there. I
think it was a remix.
Remix, right. So I made a song. It was actually me protesting the the war in Iraq back in like early 2000s.
Yep.
So it was me, saying that I'm against the war. And I used that beat. I rhymed over that beat. So Critical Thinking, the college years, was one of the songs that was on there. It wasn't a lot of songs. It was like 5 songs, but it was my first attempt at actually recording a project. And so it's back in the archives. I don't even think it's out or anywhere. I may need to like put it up just that so people can hear it. But yeah, that was my first time doing that, and it came out of the community that I was around. A lot of people were making music, and I was like, all right, well, let me try something. Let me put something out, And there's a song called "Living My Life" that I have a video for. Shout out to my boy Randy, who filmed the video. This was back in like early 2000s. I need to get that video up there because I shot a video in Brooklyn in my neighborhood. The video has footage of me doing the radio show in college and stuff. It has footage of a number of things, man. I got to get that video up there, man. You just reminded me that I got to try to get that video up online,
Yeah, I definitely tried to look for that project before.
Nah, it's not out there. It used to be on MySpace. It used to be on MySpace back in the days when we had MySpace. You could put your music up. It used to be up there. Yeah, I don't think I ever took it down, to be honest. But I don't know where my MySpace page is.
All right, that's cool. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned Fulton Street. I currently work in downtown Brooklyn, but when I was younger, my mother also worked in the area, and she also shopped in the area. So on the weekends, we used to take the Staten Island Ferry and then take the end of the R train from Whitehall Street to downtown Brooklyn, Albee Square Mall and everything. So she was into arts and crafts and stuff like that, as well as just shopping. So we'd be in all those places down there. And I remember, everything being sold out on the street. I remember the music stores. And then as I got a little older, just before my teenage years, I started getting into the DJing through my uncle. So we used to go down Beat Street and Music Factory out there as well.
Word. I remember Beat Street.
Yep. You just brought up, memories when you mentioned Fulton Street.
Word, yeah. Albee Square Mall. Word.
Yep.
That's where I used to go shopping when I was younger. Like it's so crazy because I ran into a few artists back then. I remember I saw Buckshot, I saw Killer Priest one time. Like you would run
Wow.
into artists and stuff like that
Yeah.
in downtown Brooklyn and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the other thing I wanted to talk about was while you're in college, how did you get into the radio show and just know everything around that during that time when you were in college?
Yeah. So I majored in radio. So my major was radio communications.
Oh, radio. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it was natural to get on the radio station. That was one of my goals from even before, I got to college. Like when you go on those college tours before you get to the school,
Yeah.
I saw the radio station. I was like, oh, that's what I want. But I had remember I told you I was in an organization called Sixth Element. So one of the brothers that was one of the older brothers in the organization, he was actually the producer. The show was called P5. It was WRHU. It was the hip hop show on Hofstra's campus. So he was the producer before me. And I remember one time, like because you had to pass like a course and everything, like a test to even get on the station, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you got to understand like the FCC and the
Regulations
rules
and everything. Yep.
Yeah,
Got you.
So you had to take a course and stuff to get on. And when I finally passed the course, I was so excited. And he brought me under his wing because he was the producer at the time. And I remember the first interview, he was interviewing like some gospel artists. And it was like a Saturday, because usually we would do the show on Saturday nights. And I'm staying on campus. And he hit me up the same day. He's like, yo, you gonna do this interview. I never did an interview with anybody. And I was just like, what? Like, how am I gonna do an interview? Like, he's like, nah, I trust you can do this. And I actually did it. I was nervous, but I did it. And he was like, yeah, that was good. Of course, I had a lot more to learn, but that was like my first time being put on the spot. And I don't know, my mother always instilled something in me. She always told me, be excited about the challenges. Even when I was in college and I was having a hard time getting through classes and stuff, I remember my mother wrote me an email. This was like the early stages of email, but I won't forget. Like she told me, she said, it was the way she said it. Like she was like, just be excited about the challenges. Like almost like there was this joy in overcoming the challenge, right? To say that, oh, wow, I did it. And that resonated with me in some way. And it's actually something that has allowed me to do so much with Out the Box, right? Like all of the artists I've interviewed, every time I would hit an obstacle, I would just keep pushing. Something about having the door closed in front of your face or people rejecting you just gave me more motivation to be like, all right, I'm gonna keep pushing. Because when I get that, I'm gonna feel so good because of what I had to endure to overcome it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's nice. Definitely great.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you think about it, when there is an obstacle, most people allow their frustration to not just get to them, but not allow them to properly focus to make that achievement. So yeah, your mom was definitely on point with giving you that.
Yeah, indeed, man. Give thanks to her, man, for real.
Yeah, that's it. Now, when I was in college, I took up computer engineering, but I went down to the University of Miami. But I was already, before I went to college, was listening to all the underground radio shows up in New York at the time.
Right.
So Stretch and Bob, Mayhem Sunset, Wild Bill, Mr. Magic, all of that I was already listening to. So for me to go all the way down to South Florida and then trying to find something to listen to, because I'm so ingrained in being up late night listening to all these different radio shows up in New York,
right?
I kind of spoiled in a sense. So I found out that the college radio station WVWF WVUM 90.5 had a hip hop show called the Hip Hop Shop. And
Right.
when I found out about it, tuning in a few times, and I actually found out who the person was that was hosting and everything, spoke with them, and they said, we're doing interns, for the whole radio station. So at that point, I was pretty much there reviewing all types of music for
Right.
almost every radio station. So that kind of opened my eyes more to other music and genres out there. But it was definitely an experience, a learning tool of getting an understanding of how radio works and
Right.
seeing how much is going on behind the scenes before that song or album gets played, and also seeing how it could be hectic when there's a lot of disorganization too.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
man.
definitely enjoyed that experience.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, man. It's definitely experience, man. Mhm.
Production again. Um, you mentioned trying the Fruity Loops and then
Yeah.
moving on from there. Um, when did you start using the MPC one?
um, the MPC one, I started using that not too long ago. When did I get it? I got it. Yeah, I got it last year. Last year,
Okay.
like might have been like last year, March or something like that. 2024 March. And it was a learning curve for me because I kind of, I don't want to say mastered, but I had got pretty good at figuring out what worked for me with
Hmm.
just using the MIDI keyboard. That's why if you look at the next best step, the album cover, you see like a keyboard, on the cover, because that's what I was using.
Yeah.
And I was just chopping my samples and doing like the production and stuff with that. But the MPC, something about, I just wanted to get, it's so funny because my brother A Level he's an MPC head. He's making beats started making beats for a long time. There go the cover. He was always telling me, yo, it's nothing like the MPC, and then I don't know, I just felt like, I think what drew me to the MPC was I felt like making drums was a little bit easier on the MPC, like you
Okay.
know, you know, making drums and stuff. So I wanted it for that reason. And then when I got it, I was starting to feel out the again, like remember I was telling you with the keyboard, I was getting that feel. When I started tapping on that pad, I was like, "Ooh, I'm loving this feel." You know what I mean? But it was a learning curve because learning on the MPC is different than just doing beats on a DAW. You kind of, I had to figure out how to um sequence and you know um like layer the beats a certain way. It has its advantages and maybe even its disadvantages from just doing the beats on FL Studio with just the MIDI keyboard. But a lot of the work that I did on FL Studio, I did a lot of like cut and pasting, and with the MPC, it was more hands-on, right?
Okay.
And because of that, it was a learning curve. But I got to a place again with that where I was just like, yo, I could either stay here and continue trying to keep perfecting these beats or add in more stuff and add in more variations. Or I could just be like, you know what? Let me just do this, and that. And honestly, I just had to stop for a certain point because I was making a lot of beats and I just was like, I just was like, okay, when is this gonna stop? It started not becoming fun anymore. The more
I
I
know
would
what
just
this is.
keep, like, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, once I make a certain amount of beats, like I just want to move on and start writing. Like
Mhm.
I want to see my art all the way through. I don't make the beats to make beats. I make the beats to make songs. You know what I mean?
Understand. Yeah.
So when I make my beats, I'm always envisioning how I'm gonna rap over it, right? So when I make the beats, I don't want to spend too much time deliberating over it. And sometimes I realize when you put too much in your beats, it could be a challenge for the artist, right? To then have to go through all these different variations and rhyme over it. So I've had to find like a sweet spot with that.
Hmm.
But yeah, the MPC, I haven't been using it long. It's about a little over, I want to say about close to 2 years now. But I'm happy with, everything that you hear on A State of Going Through is all MPC beats. So
Yep.
there's more to come with the MPC beats. But yeah, I just started working on that like last year. And I like, I don't think if I'm honest, I don't see myself going back to FL Studio. I'm probably just gonna ride out with the MPC because it does
Nothing
help
wrong
me
with
a
that.
little bit more than when I was doing it with FL Studio.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll go back, but I did create some pretty cool music with FL Studio. Like the next best step was completely FL Studio,
Okay.
and I'm so proud of that album. But I think I'm probably never say never, but most likely I think I'll stick with the MPC moving forward. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely think that you vibe more with the MPC one.
yeah,
So
and
being that,
maybe I'll get another, because there's different types of MPCs. But right now I'm cool with the MPC one. Yeah,
got you.
yeah,
And being that you started it last year, also your first single from A State of Going Through, Keep Going, dropped in December of last year. Take us
yes,
take us through the process of that production and how ill you laced the chops on this one.
yeah. Man. So it's so interesting. All of those beats on A State of Going Through, what kind of make I always make the beats first before I don't do like one beat and then rhyme.
Hmm.
I rarely do that. Like I'll make all the beats first and then I'll go and then there'll be a period of time where I'll just rhyme. So all of those beats was made like they might have been made like last summer. The whole of last summer I made those beats. And I don't know, like that particular beat, Keep Going. I'm trying to remember, like I just remember making it, and I was just like, because they like I can't really pinpoint like how I made those beats separate. Like, of course, they're separate beats, but
Hmm.
like they were all made around the same time. So I just was in a groove, and I remember that beat. I just was like, "Ooh, I like that. That has like a raw kind of edge to it." And it just was just a vibe, man. I just kept flowing. It was over the summer last year, and I just kept making beats after beats, and that one I liked, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna put that one to the side. I think I'm gonna use this one. I knew which beats I was gonna use, and that's how it always is. Like I'll hear it. The first beat I ever made for this EP though was the one that I have the video out for. Surviving the Times.
Surviving
That
the
was
times.
the first beat I ever made on the first complete beat I made on the MPC one.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I was like, "Oh yeah, I love this. This gonna be a good one." And I had some beats I threw away, like that I just kind of like scrapped to the side. That I don't know, maybe I'll use them, but yeah, man, it was a flow. I can't even pinpoint like when I made this particular one, what I was thinking. It was just a flow, man. Like that's how I be. It's so funny because I used to think before I started making beats, when I would interview artists and I would be like, yo, what made you think about making this beat, or what inspired you? And they would give me some of the same answers I'm giving, and now I understand. Like when you're making beats, at least for me, it never is like you don't go into it knowing I'm gonna make that beat. I just go into it a lot of times with the one thing I go into it is like, okay, I know what type of sound I'm looking for. Most of the times I'm looking for a soulful sound, right?
Right.
So I like a lot of like gospel samples where like you'll hear like the vocals and stuff, like the girl singing or whatever. then I'll chop that up. So I'll look for a lot of like gospel samples and stuff, or like soul samples. A lot of samples where you'll hear someone singing. I like that, you know, because I grew up on a lot of soul music too.
Gotcha. And for those that are tuning in, when you drop the Keep Going single, you also blessed us with the instrumental, which
I
was
did, yes.
Doing Things Just for Attention Is Whack, which later became the track Attention.
That's right. Yep. That's right, man. You did your research, man. I appreciate that, man. I'm so grateful, man.
Cool, cool. I want to know, you laid down the production, you got Out the Box Media, you spoke on your experience with the radio and broadcast. So at what point did you say, I already have experience with doing interviews, let me bless the people with the jewels of interviewing, and I'm going to do Creating a Successful Interview podcast, a how-to
Right.
guide?
Well, yeah, man. Thank you for bringing that up. That's like even though I don't feel like it gets talked about a lot, that's special to me because again, that book was created during the pandemic. A lot of me becoming an author and writing that book and putting out my first album, Growth and Balance, that all happened during the pandemic. I was actually doing a lot of podcasts around that time, so a lot was happening with me. And I just was in a mode of like trying to figure out ways to further my legacy and also create passive income, right? Create other streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely one of the motivating factors. But I wanted to be true to what I have to offer in the world, right? I didn't want to do something that wasn't relatable to what I'm known for, right? And I was like, I always wanted to write a book. And I said, well, what could I write a book about that could be not easy, but like just something that I know I have the knowledge that I could share, right?
Yeah.
And after doing interviews for years and I, you know, and I'm so, like I said, I have so much respect for journalists, like people like yourself who take this thing very seriously, because I was that, you know what I mean? And I'm still that to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, man, like when you think about all the people I've interviewed and even like that run I had where I did like 100 episodes during the pandemic, I would get a lot of compliments from a lot of artists and even like people that would watch the shows and stuff, and they would compliment me on how good I am with the interviews and stuff. And I don't know, something in me was just like, you know, I would like to share what I've learned, not just from doing podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
but also I graduated with a radio degree. So I learned broadcast. I went to school for that. Was, you know, like I told you, you know, when I was doing college radio, we won a number of awards under my leadership as a producer when I was doing, you know, college radio. So, you know, just looking back at my history, my experience, a lot to do with Out the Box TV and Out the Box Talks, the podcast. I just felt like I wanted to share something, and I just said, you know what? Let me see if I could write this book that shares advice on how to conduct successful interviews. And that's where it came from. Just, you know, like you said, out of necessity to offer something that would leave a legacy for myself, but would be something I could share as value based on my experience.
Definitely
So
appreciate
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I'll say I don't know how I don't know how I ca- I don't know how true it is, but I know at the time when I wrote the book, I was searching to see if there's any other books how much other books are written about teaching people how to do successful podcast interviews,
Mhm.
strictly in terms of how you conduct the interviews, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I didn't really see a lot of books like that was out. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I might be, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but and like I said, I might be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I might be the person, first black person or first person of African descent that has written a book on teaching people how to do a successful podcast interview. And now when I look at so many people that have done podcasts, and everybody has a podcast now and stuff, and I look at so many times people do interviews, and definitely not with you, because you've been extremely well in terms of how you conducted yourself.
Mhm.
But I watch people do interviews and I'm just like cringing. Like, I'm like, damn, you didn't even let the person speak. Like, you're
Oh
cutting this
yeah.
off. Like, it's like there's a thing called um how you say interview etiquette. And a lot of people don't have that because they don't have the professional training or the professional understanding of how to conduct themselves in interviews.
Yeah.
And so, I saw that so much, and that was another reason why I decided to write the book.
Definitely fill the void. Yep. And I got to give a shout out to one of our HHDG Media Inc. Members, the mayor, who also has a podcast, mainly a sports podcast called The Starting Five. And being that he's been doing this for many years, he also helped me when I started doing this, give me the proper guidance, and when you listen to my early interviews, give me certain tips and pointers there. So big shout out to the mayor.
Salute to him, man. Salute. And it's so dope that you could shout out someone who kind of gave you that guidance, right? And I think that's what's missing nowadays. Like, people don't want to pay homage. They don't want to give recognition to the people that paved the way. I'm gonna be honest with you. I moved on from the podcast, not because I didn't want to do it, not because I don't love it.
Mhm.
It's just that, music became something that I became more excited about. I still run the blog, the Out the Box Media blog, so I'm always sharing music regularly. But I also started feeling a way like, I was looking at how easy it was for like celebrities to just start podcasts off of this celebrityism, when
Mhm.
I was somebody who actually went to school for it. I grinded out. I did so much to do, like, my biggest interview to this day is my interview with Erykah Badu, right, on Out the Box TV, right? But what it took for me to get that interview, it took years to get that interview. Like, it wasn't like just I had to keep getting rejected,
Yep.
and then eventually figuring out ways. When you got celebrities that got podcasts and they complaining that they can't get certain people, and y'all getting people on y'all shows just off of y'all celebrity. You know what I'm saying? So I used to be, I'd be like, so if you're upset that you can't get a certain interview with a certain person because they're like big name, but you've gotten all these other artists, where do I stay, or other artists, like, other podcasts like yourself who grind this out, do this for real, just like you may not have the capital that you have, but we take this thing just as serious. We're
Absolutely.
professional in how we conduct ourselves.
Yep.
We care for the culture. We love this culture. Like, I felt the way about that, and I wrote the book, right? Like, I hear so many people talk about podcast this, but I haven't seen them write a book yet, And I'm not knocking nobody who hasn't written a book, but it's just my legacy, man. I always want to feel like I wanted to share something that was me giving back in a valuable way.
Definitely. And we appreciate that, because the same way you mentioned professionalism with podcasting, not everyone can go out there and write a book as well.
Word. and
And
I'm
I'm
not. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I'm gonna put the link up there for everyone that's tuning in.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's on Amazon, so you could order the ebook. I also have the physical books too. You could order the physical books from Amazon. If you order it on Amazon, you'll probably get it in like a few days, to be honest with you. But if I have a few books with me as well, so if you want me to autograph the book, I can ship it to you directly from me because I have books in my inventory
There
as
you
well.
go.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, I'm going to present another book, which is a helpful guide, and it's not with interviewing, it's on artists who go on the road, and it provides essential tips when you're doing international touring.
Yeah, bring it close. I'm just bringing the fan. I'm like hot right now. My
That's all
bad.
good. Now, this book right here is created by an artist named Venomous 2000 from Passaic, New Jersey, who also has
I heard about him. Yeah.
a media company, V2G Media. And like you were saying, I don't think anyone has ever created a guide for interviewing. I think this may be the first book to give a guide for artists going on international tours. And
That's dope.
the reason I bring this up is because, again, this is something essential that people should know about. So I definitely still believe that might be the first publication to give those type of tips for any artist, going abroad.
Definitely. I think I saw that book, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's an interesting book, man. I would like to check it out.
Yeah, I'll send you a link for
Send
it.
me the link. Yeah, definitely. And I'm all for that. Like, I'm big on like creatives, offering advice, like John Robinson, he put out an audio book the other day that was giving like tips on how to, be successful as a creative and stuff,
Yep.
So that type of stuff inspires me, man. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's give it up for all of the Black people out there making anything creative that inspires, like you have done, like Venomous 2000 has done, like John Robinson has done, because the music is always going to be there. The avenues that we create through the music is what continuously sticks with us and reaches a lot of people of different generations.
Absolutely. Indeed, definitely. You got it. That's right on point.
Now I'm going to talk about one of my favorite tracks from you, and it came off your EP, the 3-track EP with the same name, Compassion, Unity, and Healing.
Thank you, bro. I don't even talk about that much, but yeah, that's what's up. Yeah.
The track Compassion, that one truly resonates with me. And when I listen to it, there's times, complete strangers see me, throughout the city sometimes. And every once in a while, I guess it's because of my mannerisms, some people ask me, were you raised by your grandparents? And what I tell them, I said, in a way, yes, because when I was younger and my parents were working, my grandparents would pick me up from pre-K and early elementary school, and I would stay with them for a few hours. So in essence, they did raise me. And one of my grandmothers, God bless her, she was one of those grandparents that wanted the grandchildren to stay with them. So she always tried to incite to my mother, oh, you can let him stay with us. You can go and do whatever you want to do and try and keep me and raise it. But, that's how a lot of grandparents were. And some of them still are. So definitely, because my mother now is doing that with my 2 sons. So
that's what's up. Yeah.
So, with me saying that, again, the track Compassion, I don't I'm not sure what was going on during the time when you created that, but again, it definitely resonated with me when I listened to that one.
Thank you, man. What was it about that resonated? Was it like a particular lyric, or just what was it
It it it,
specifically?
it was more of, I've seen how other family members were with, if certain family members or close friends of the family had
Right.
gone through certain things,
Yeah.
they open their home to them. And
Mm.
at the same time, I resonated that when I got a little older with my firstborn. There was a time when he had a cousin that was having some issues,
Right.
and we let them stay with us for about a few weeks till
Mm.
they got back on their feet with everything. And if I didn't experience, seeing that from my elders when I was younger, I probably, things would be a little different in how I
Right.
would go about it.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, man. It's always interesting to see how people resonate with your music. I have that experience a lot with artists, right? Because I'm a fan. As you know, I'm a big fan of a lot of artists. So it's dope to hear someone like yourself resonate with my music in that way. When I made Compassion Healing Unity, that project came out of a time when it's a short project, 3 songs, but that was during the pandemic, right? Where I saw a lot of people, we were at odds with each other, especially when it came to the vaccine.
Hmm.
I saw so many family members fighting with each other on this person getting the shot and this person not getting the shot. And I just was like, man, what is going on? Like, why are we dividing? You know what I'm saying? Why are we not coming together? This is a time to come together, and we taking, we politically divided. Like, like before this, we were together and we're being politically divided. And I just didn't like it. I just was like
Yeah.
I'm Aquarius, so maybe that's just the humanitarian side of me that felt like I needed to do a project like that. But it really was about me. If there's any record I ever did, and it's a real short, like you said, it's just 3 songs, but that's the record. That's like my humanity record, right? That's my record that was all about getting people to come together and stop fighting and stop going against each other, and let's get back to unity, healing, and compassion. Let's be
Hmm.
compassionate with each other. Like, why are we if we want to survive this, we got to come together, you know what I mean? So that's what that whole project was really about, man. So I'm glad that you resonated with compassion.
Thank you. And another thing with not just your music, but when I've listened to the Out the Box Media interviews that you've done in the past, I've noticed that you you always have a way of showing resilience, um, speaking on positivity and unity and solidarity, and that also goes hand in hand with your music. So, in the same way that I saw a lot with my elders, was there? Did you see that as well growing up?
Absolutely. I grew up in a lot of my positive, uplifting upbringing came when I was living in Trinidad, right? I grew up amongst my grandmother and my grandfather. I grew up in an extended family, right? So I literally, like, I grew up with my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, my female cousin. We were like sister and brother. We all grew up in the same household. And I think my grandmother and my grandfather, they just shared so much love. Like you were talking about your grandmother, like I grew up with that kind of love. And if that's and then my mother, man, my mother instill a lot of, like, really moral values in me, and to this day, man, it's stuck with me, man. I'm a unique individual in the sense that you know, the things that I hold dear to me, has a lot to do with just my upbringing, and just like I don't forget the love that I was brought up in, right? Like I never forget it. I always try my best to pay homage. Um, but yeah, man, I grew up amongst love, man. Like that's I had family. I had family always around me. And I think that's the foundation of who I am today, man. My mom, a very big impact on me. My biological father, he's living to this day, but he never was really in my life. And I don't know, man. I'm the type of brother that I resonate with people who go through struggle. I'm not gonna be the one that's into trying to make friends with people because they got a lot of money, or they're like popular, or everybody knows them. That was never my vibe, even to this day. Like, and it's one of the reasons why, like, when you look at like a lot of the artists that I interviewed, there was a time like during the pandemic when I was trying to get like a lot of the bigger names, not a lot, but like certain like bigger names, and I couldn't get them. And I was just like, yo, forget that. I'm gonna just reinvent this whole thing, and I'm gonna just go find the dopest talent that a lot of people don't know about, right? And if people know about them, great. If they don't, but that gave me a sense of like drive and like excitement. Oh wow, like, and it just it's almost like a resurgence of being excited about hip hop again, like. So I'm always for the underdog. I'm always gonna root for the underdog. I'm always gonna, support the artists that about integrity. One of my I don't, am I rambling? I don't want to go on too much of a tangent.
You're good.
But like, we lost a really talented brother in hip hop, is Brownsville Kai, right? I know you're familiar with Kai, who we lost, not too long ago. And to this day, him transitioning still hurts, because he was one of the brothers that always saw value in me and told me this on multiple occasions, and the brother just had so much integrity, man. And it was almost like we saw each other, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so like artists like that, man, like, brothers like Stickman, who, Stick from Dead Prez, he just put out a project with Young Noble, right? They put out a project called Integrity. Like, if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, I think you have to purchase it though. It's such a good project. Like, it has morals all over it. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that resonate with me, and you'll probably hear that kind of positive, uplifting message of integrity in my music as well.
Definitely. And if you want to find out about music like Stickman and Young Noble's album, you can go to Out the Box Media's website.
Indeed, I have it posted on the website, and you can go to their IGs, man. They're sharing, promotion about the music, so you could go. I think it comes with a fragrance. It's called Integrity.
Yeah, Integrity.
Yeah. So yeah,
and I like marketing like that.
Word. We living in a time where everything is so cookie cutter, right? And music is so. I could go on a tangent about how I feel about AI when it comes to music, which it's a lot of things I'm seeing I'm not feeling. Even though I know AI, you can benefit a lot from it, but like when it comes to music, I have a lot of reserves about that. But like when we living in such a time where everything is so cookie cutter and people are just doing things for views. I talk about it in my EP, Attention, the song Attention.
Mhm.
Like those things, like I like to see an artist still stand on integrity and still stand on values and still stand on morals, because it's like food for thought, right? It's the type of nourishment you want in this day and age, you know.
Yeah. Yep. And with that being said, let's segue and go into the visuals for Surviving the Times. So before we go and show it, why don't you give us an intro to this song?
So yeah, Surviving the Times is, like I said earlier, it's the first beat I did on the first complete beat I did on the MPC one. So when I did the beat, I knew I was gonna write something to it, and I knew it was gonna be a good record. And so far it's been good. A lot of people like this record. A lot of people have told me, yo, this is one of my favorite, you know, they really like this record. But the video, I shot the video in a peer space location. Oh man, I gotta remember. Damn, I forget I gotta remember the actual location. But my queen and my youngest son, they came out and they helped me to film the video. My queen, she's the one that actually filmed the video. Shout out to her. Shout out to Talia Gem. She's always kind of behind the scenes.
Okay.
You know, whenever you see me do like my little IG video, she's usually the one recording the video. Or I know over the weekend I have my youngest son come out and record me and stuff like that. So, you know, it's my family support me, right? Yeah. Like I don't have a budgeting crew. So my queen helped me film the video, and it was pretty dope, man. I mean, it's not the biggest video. It was my first attempt to actually record a video indoors. When I did the video for Remember Me for the song on Growth and Balance, I did that in the park. But this was my first time doing an indoor video. So, you know.
All right. Nah, it came out good.
Check it out. Thanks, man.
And she does the editing and
did the editing. She just did the filming and stuff like that. But I did the editing and, you know, put the visuals together and stuff. But it was a family effort, you know. Yeah.
Let's get into Surviving the Times.
Word. Going through it, surviving the times. Yo, let's go. Observing life through the lens of a black man trying to survive. The hill ahead, steep as hell, but I'm inclined to climb. It's a steady race, a bit slow in pace, but I push forward and I do it with grace, no do it with haste. Keep the balance in place, rock with the truth, do away with the fake. What is keeping it real? If a precious one's life is stolen, or because of disagreements you holding, gotta see beyond the moment. Keep our emotions controlling, don't let your ego turn you in like a token. Real words spoken is live to see another day. Keep an open mind, I get to see another way. I remember the words that my mother would say. I listened to her then, and I still listen today. I'm proud to follow the path that my mother displayed. Who I am now is what it made. Glory to the Creator for keeping me right. It's been tough, but I'm grateful for life. A greater force that's supporting my life, keeping me more than I. Truly blessed through the day and the night. I just want to be in tune with my eye. Stay connected to my ancestors, cause they support is what I know I got. I believe in myself, whether you know it or not. Divine guidance around the clock, like when I chose to rock. A microphone on the spot, I keep it growing and locked. Peep the movement I got, people amusing and shot. How I'm so smooth with the words when I drop. Not an ounce of interest in trying to be what I'm not. Rather find a way to overcome the trap or the block. Or the reason that brother gotta defend to stop. Ghetto conflicts, we shouldn't have to deal with a lot, or not at all. We gotta come together more. Surviving the times, I'm just trying to be righteous with mine. Make the best I could do with my time. Moving safe in the grind. I just take it one step as I climb. To see success is my state of mind. Surviving the times, I'm just trying to be righteous with mine. Make the best I could do with my time. Moving safe in the grind. I just take it one step as I climb. To see success is my state of mind. I gotta be refined in the choices I make. Gotta overcome the voices of my past mistakes. Strategies of mental wellness is the path I take. Glad to see eventually that the task could pay, but not in cash today or artificial vast way, but through a peace of mind with positive thoughts on display. Worry free is the way. Such a feeling that's great. When I control my own thoughts, I see a better frame, a new perspective beyond the view of yesterday. Choosing blessings over fear that used to be in my gaze. Been listening lately to self-help audio books. What I'm hearing suiting me clear, and I'm loving the look. Overcoming the shook, captivation of the mind. They say you worry too much, you die multiple times. I'm learning negative thoughts don't ever define what my future would be. I was raised to be fine and stay true to being me. Choosing good over evil, doing right and what's best for the people. My reflection ain't see-through, and if you could, all you could see is true. Not saying I ain't got no shortcomings or mistakes I made, but if you look at my life, you see I overcame. You see I made it past the negative influences the streets create. A brighter future was in my aim. Surviving the times, I'm just trying to be righteous with mine. Make the best I could do with my time, moving safe in the grind. I just take it one step as I climb to see success is my state of mind. Surviving the times, I'm just trying to be righteous with mine. Make the best I could do with my time, moving safe in the grind. I just take it one step as I climb to see success is my state of mind. My state of mind. Surviving the times. All right. Good looking on playing that video, man. Thank you. I think you muted still.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for playing that video. That's what's up, man.
You're welcome. Yeah. You always gotta give the people the visuals. You know, that's another key element in hip hop that I love that is still here are the visuals.
Word. I need to do more, you know. If I had like the budget to just hire people, I would definitely do that more. There's actually another video I want to actually shoot. Hopefully about it before the summer's out, I could get that video out from one of the other singles on the project.
Okay. Definitely. What I was gonna say is, along your journey, was there any point where I know, and I've done it myself, I have a dry erase board here. I write down certain goals and bullets that I'm looking to achieve along your path, you know, high school, college. Now, were there certain milestones that you were working to achieve?
Say that one more time. Just rephrase the question one more time. I'm sorry.
You know, I was saying along your journey, was there like, you know, you wrote down certain goals that you had that you were looking to achieve throughout high school, college, and now?
Oh man, that's interesting. I don't know if I wrote anything down, but I always had the mindset. I always was thinking about certain things. Yeah, I was always thinking, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. But also, I'm inspired by life, like the journey of life. So like some of the things I'm doing now, I never thought I would have done, you know. And as I grow and I get inspired, I go on to new things, like writing a book. I remember it was a sister that I used to work with. Shout out to her name, Asada. Shout out to Asada. She wrote a book years ago. It was about like disciplining children the right way, right? Without having to hit them, without having to, you know, it was like, and I remember she always told me I should write a book. And she always would be like, you know, encouraging me. And I just was like, okay, I do want to write a book, but I don't know what to write about yet, you know. But that was the seed that was being planted. I just kept, then I started thinking more and more like, okay. And then when the pandemic hit, like I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this book on the podcast, on how to, you know, conduct interviews with a podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think over time, just meeting people, being a lot of it came from inspiration from people, right? Doing music. I'm I'm almost mid-40s, right? So
Close
like
to me.
looking, yeah, I'm close to it. I'm 43. So looking at a lot of artists, a lot of the artists I was interviewing on Out the Box, they were inspiring me. I would be inspired by them to actually, oh wow, you were able to create this. Oh wow, so let me try. Let me see if I can create this. And so I was inspired by my peers a lot, and the people I looked up to.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I meant to mention this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion, Unity, and Healing dropped on your birthday.
It did.
January
Yes.
29th.
That's correct. Yeah, I felt like I always felt like I would see, sometimes I would see artists release music on their birthday, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. I want to see how that feels, and it was like my gift back to people, So it was my birthday, but I wanted to give that as a gift, yeah. And the production, like for that, like I think I made those beats. It was a bunch of beats I made, but I just picked those 3.
Mm-hmm.
What the first record, I made the beat on, like, I remember Christmas morning, December 25th, I made that beat, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put out an EP. And literally, like, January 29th, that's my birthday. So like like a month or so after is when I released it. Yeah.
Wow. Your was your last interview with trying to remember the artist.
I think it was with was it Midas
Was
the
it Scott? Oh, it was Midas? Oh, okay. I was thinking it might have been Sky Blue from North Carolina.
Nah, it wasn't
It
Sky
wasn't?
Blue.
Okay.
Nah. It was either Midas the Beast or Meticulous. It's one of them. That was the last time I did a Out the Box. Yeah.
2 talents right there in their own right.
Yeah, man. Let me see. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, it was Midas.
It was Midas? Okay.
Yeah, it was Midas.
Cool. I got to meet him one time when he came up to New York.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
He's a good dude, man. Good dude.
Yes, he is. Yep.
Very talented. Very talented.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice with the pen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, being that you listen to so much music, I'm going to take out a few new albums from this year and tell me what comes to mind when you see them.
Okay.
All right. First off, we're going to go with your home borough, Smith & Wesson, Infinity.
Love that album, man. That album reminds me of it's just a nostalgic feeling of Smith & Wesson, right? Like it gives me that nostalgia. It's a very, it's a soulful album. Like, yeah, I love it. I think it's one of their best recent albums since they entered the scene in their prime back in the 90s and stuff.
Indeed. And the next is the veteran Lord Finesse, the 1200 Project.
Fresh, man. Lord Finesse, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't grow up on Lord Finesse too much, but just like his production skills and just his way with words, man. Like I would love to hear more music from him. I know you don't really hear him rhyming a lot these days, but like Lord Finesse is one of the dopest, man, of the coming out of the Bronx. That just that era, man, of like the golden era of hip hop, man. Definitely.
And for those that tune into Twitch, check Saturday afternoons, usually around 12. Lord Finesse is on there doing his thing on the 1s and 2s.
That's what's up. Shout out to Lord Finesse,
Yeah,
DITC.
indeed. And the last one is another Bronx representative from the Juggernauts, Queen Heroine,
Big
Awaken the
ups to
Sleeping
Queen
Giant.
Heroine. Word.
This is the
Shout out to
ill album right here.
Yeah, shout out to Queen Heroine, man. It's interesting. So me and a brother by the name of Randy, we worked on a film, a documentary film back in like I want to say like 2005. It's still yet to come out. And we interviewed a lot of people, and we actually interviewed the Juggernauts, all of them. We went to the Bronx.
Nice.
It's actually called Street Scholars, the Unheard. Street Scholars, the Unheard. I forget the next title, but it's been so long, and hopefully it gets to see the light of the day. But we interviewed a lot of people. This was back in like probably like early 2000, maybe like 2005 to like 2008. And we think of the Juggernauts. We think about us, Queen Heroine, man. Shout out to Queen Heroine.
Yeah,
Very talented MC, man.
very. Yep. We have our fellow HHDG Media Inc. owner, the mayor, tuning in. Big shout out. This is the man I was telling you that helped me out during giving me tips when I was starting out with doing the interviews. And he
That's
said
what's up.
if he needs someone to shoot his next video,
Reach out.
yeah, yes indeed.
That's what's up.
This
That's
this is
what's up.
another one of his talents.
Dope, man. Thanks for that, man. I'll keep that in mind.
I'll give you
I
I'll give you his information.
Yeah, definitely, man. Cause I got some ideas, but you can't always do everything on your own, So
Mhm.
it's some things I want to do that I feel like that extra mind, especially somebody who's been doing videos for a while, could help out. Yeah. So yeah, definitely send me the info.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to keep you much longer, but we definitely have to let people know, how did you come up with the name Cril?
So Cril is actually a combination of my real name. So you got Corey Randall Luar, that's my name. So it's you put the CRL together, and that's how you come with Cril. And that's really what it was, man. Like I came up with that name when I was like in junior high school, and when we were tagging up and back in the days and stuff. Everybody had a nickname, and I just was like, all right, let me how I'm gonna put this name together, and I just was like, yo, CRL, Cril, you know what I mean? And I just put the I to make it sound like so that it sounds like Krill as opposed to sounding like curl, right? So I just put the I there to make it sound like Krill, and I just kept it as that, man. I just never changed it.
Got you.
So that's me, Krill is me, Yeah.
And being that your debut, Growth and Balance, as well as Next Best Step, are on CD, I got to ask, is the State of Growing Through going to be on any CD?
Physicals. So I don't have any plans to release it on CD. If there's a demand for it, then yeah, but I really don't have any plans. I think I want to try a different route. I have an idea that I'm thinking of. I want to try a different type of merch that is that actually goes with the theme of the project.
Gotcha.
And I'll share a little bit about that with you. So a state of going through, I don't know if you've probably read like the Bandcamp description on it, but a state of going through really was birthed out of thoughts that I was going through, right, in the last couple of years from, after my last album, The Next Best Step. So a state of going through is just like, okay, I was going through a lot of different thoughts and feelings and experiences, and a lot of that is bottled up into what you hear on the project, right? And I just felt like I didn't want to name the project I'm going through something or this is what I'm going through, right? So I felt like, okay, if I had to come up with a title that was kind of like cool, a state of going through, it's like a state of going through something, a mind state really of going through. And if you look at the EP cover, it's like a roadway, and it's you don't see a car, but it's really like a car. It could be somebody walking, but really it's like a car driving through almost like a state.
Mhm.
So I have so the physical representation is like you're going through an actual physical state, right? But the actual deeper meaning is like a state of going through something, right? And that's um that's relayed in the actual music that you hear on the project. So I have an idea of something that I want to actually come out with. I'll actually share it on the platform for those, because I haven't shared it yet, but hey, I'll put it out there on the platform. I'm looking to create some valet trays. You know what a valet tray is, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like you would put like your valuables in there, like a wallet, your wallet,
Mhm.
your keys and stuff. And I was looking up things that you could use when you're actually traveling, from state to state, right? Or when you're on vacation, to go with the whole going through a different state traveling type vibe, right? And I was like, yo, this might be cool, like a valet tray, and then like some words of wisdom to go with it, and in a form of some cards. And um anyone that purchases the valet tray, they actually get the digital copy of the album and stuff. So that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm
Yeah.
working on. I don't know if I'm gonna go with it, but I wanted to put it out there. In fact, I had planned to kind of share it with like the fan base and everything, but you know what? The moment felt right and I shared it here first, right? So anybody's listening, that's what I'm thinking of next. So you got that exclusive, right, in
There
terms
it
of
is.
what I'm trying to do with the merch. But I have like some t-shirts that I'm gonna have. I'm very soon I'm gonna put the t-shirts up that people can purchase and stuff. I would like to create like some cassettes if people are interested. Instead of going the CD route, I would want to do the cassettes. But right now, I don't really have any plans to do any like CDs yet, unless
Okay.
there's a demand for it. I want to do something a little different, you know.
Put up a vote. See what they say.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put up a vote, see what people think. If that's something they see valuable enough to purchase, then I'll do an order and have people put it out there. It's what the people want, right? Whatever
Right.
they tell me they want, I'll go with it. Because I don't want to try to do something that they don't necessarily want. So yeah, I'll put up a vote and see, man. And so if people want CDs, I'm down to do it. You know, but it's not in my plans immediately. For this particular project.
All good. My last question for tonight. With everything that you've gone through, you've experienced, and you continue with the positivity, the solidarity, and the culture is so ingrained with everything that you do, how do you keep it balanced?
That's the magic question, right? Um, Spirituality is important to me. Making sure that I take time to just commune with the Creator, my benevolent ancestors, um, staying true to my morals. Um, but honestly, balance is a tough thing, because um, with the work that I do in the daytime, it does take a lot of energy out of me.
Mhm.
So I have to keep reminding myself to pour into the wellness of myself, right? So I try to eat healthy for the most part. Um, I try to get as much rest as I can possibly get, even though that's tough these days. I try to pour back into myself, spend a lot of time with family, and really just like self-help, like a lot of like self-help. Like I listened to a self-help audio book a lot. It really helps me to deal with some of the struggles I deal with, challenges I deal with mentally and stuff. So just having reminders, right? My spirituality, of course, my family, my loved ones, and just utilizing self-help books, those things really help me to stay grounded.
Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
A State of Going Through is out now. You can go check it out, support it, share it through Kril's Bandcamp, which I'm going to put the link up once again.
Thank
And
you.
also, everything and anything related to Cril and Out the Box Media is available through his link tree.
Yes, thank you.
So once again, thank you, Cril, for taking the time to speak with me. And the floor is yours to give you shout outs and let everyone know where else they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you so much again. I was so honored to do this interview, and man, you did an awesome job, man. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for being patient and asking like really good questions. And just again, I value what you all do so much, not only because I'm a fan of hip hop, but because I experienced it, right? So like I see you as a peer, in terms of the journalist side and stuff. So I don't take the work that you do for granted. And I wish you continued success with this, and continue doing your thing, man. I truly, truly value what you guys do, because the artists that you guys choose to interview, they really need that support, and so I just want to say that, first and foremost, thank you. And as far as like, shout outs and things, like I do want to mention that this coming Saturday in Brooklyn, I'm gonna be performing. I don't do a lot of shows, but hopefully I get to do some more. I'm gonna be performing at the International African Arts Festival in Brooklyn, New York. It's gonna be I'm scheduled to perform around 1:30. It's on Saturday. It's gonna be at the Muntu stage. There's two different stages. There's like the main stage and there's another stage. It's called the Muntu stage. It's in a different section of the park, but it's a big festival that happens every year. It usually takes place for about 3 or 4 days. This year it's gonna be like 3 days. So it's gonna start on the July 4th and it's gonna go Saturday and Sunday. But I'll be there on Saturday. So if you're in New York City and you want to come out, like I said, I'm scheduled to perform around 1:30 p.m. that day, and it's at the Muntu stage. So when you get there, it's not the main stage; it's the next stage at the other side of the park. But yeah, so I want to shout that out, and yeah, that's the flyer for the event. Um, and just look out for more stuff from me, man. I'm working on, like I said, working on getting a new music video. Definitely send me that your brother, the homie's link with the music video stuff. And really want to keep promoting this music, man. It's only available on Bandcamp. I don't really have any plans to put it on DSPs, so hopefully people can continue to support it, and my artist career can grow. But that's pretty much it.
Bandcamp is where it's at, or your own website. Keep it independent.
Indeed, man.
We all know the politics with the DSP, so we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, indeed, man, indeed. And I want to build an organic following too, and the project is only like $7. So honestly, I'll say it like this: if you really want the music and you can't afford it, I don't have no problem sending it to you. If you can support it, obviously I appreciate it. But if you really want the music, I'll send you a link. It's all good, man. I want people to have the music. I'm not, on it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I'm just sharing that to anybody's listening that would like the music and you can't afford it, or you just, struggling right now. Let me know. Give me your email. I'll send you a link, and you have the music. But if you can, you know, any support is definitely appreciated.
There it is. Once again, Cril, appreciate it. And on behalf of our HHDG Media crew, we're going to say peace.
Peace. Much love. Thank you.